You know, I didn't think I'd do a commentary on a political issue this soon, but here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, shall I introduce you to the Dark Commentator. Recently, he did a commentary on a Joseph Buckley's video that criticized Trump's decision to arm teachers. And I had issues with both videos, to say the least. Now, before I start the video, I want to mention two things. First off, Dark's video is now disowned, but it's still fairly recent and has some recurring problems I've noticed with Dark's content in general, so I still think it's worth doing. Secondly, I was originally going to do a commentary on this video on School It Down, but A, I feel like I'm a bit late to the party of that one, and B, I honestly don't go on Discord that much, so I don't know too much about it, and therefore I'm not that confident in my points. I'm bringing this up because Dawsbeck checked my script for that video, and I wanted to at least thank him for trying to help me with that one. With all that said, let's get started.
So when your crazy asshole uncle says shit like, if teachers carried guns, this wouldn't have happened, you go, okay Marty, have another fucking shot of Jameson and watch the game, shut the fuck up, alright? But the president says it, and then people actually discuss it. On TV, pundits weigh the pros and cons, and his base of crazy Uncle Martys all go, yeah, see? This is what I'm saying!
Gee, Buckley, it's almost like when the President of the United States says something, then the news media discusses what he says. I'm not a fan of Trump myself, and I also don't agree with his decision to arm teachers. Like, at all, but those things don't change the fact that he's still the executive leader of the US. So when the president talks about passing legislation to let teachers carry arms, of course the media is going to discuss it, because unlike drunk Uncle Marty, Trump actually has the power to make it happen. Like, if Trump said he was thinking of nuking North Korea, for example, should the media just ignore it, even though he could possibly press the switch at any moment? No, because he could very well do that, and that decision would have a huge impact on the US as a whole.
So, by your tone, I assume that you think this is a bad thing. Why is this a bad thing? No, seriously, why? I mean, people are trying to find a solution, and discussing different options, no matter how crazy you think they might be, is not a bad thing.
It's really not that hard to figure out why he doesn't like this, Dark. Buckley hates how the idea of arming teachers is being treated with legitimate discussion because he feels that it's such a stupid idea that anyone should know it's horrible. Now, yeah, it's a pretty close-minded perspective, I'll give you that, but his reason for not liking this isn't as hard to understand as you're making it out to be. Especially considering that this was Buckley's very next statement.
But it's the ramblings of a fucking idiot, no matter who says it. First off, teachers are paid shit. I know the cops are paid shit too, but at least they go into the gig knowing that they could shoot someone and be shot at. Teachers sign up to read fucking Dr. Seuss to 4-year-olds and teach giggling 14-year-olds in health class how to roll a condom on a banana. It's a thankless enough job without also being told, oh hey, while you're marking math tests, you're also armed security.
Alright, let's see what Trump actually said, shall we?
And this would only be obviously for people that are very adept at handling a gun. And it would be, it's called concealed carry, where a teacher would have a concealed gun on them. They'd go for special training, and they would be there, and you would no longer have a gun-free zone.
As you can see, Trump said that it would only be for people who can actually use a gun, not just every teacher. So if a teacher signs up to be a teacher and doesn't want to use a gun, they don't have to. All you're doing is misrepresenting what Trump is saying. Please stop it.
It's a shame that Trump's statement is irrelevant here, since Buckley's point was that it's unfair to ask any teacher to also be part-time security, given how little their paycheck is. Yeah, according to Trump, teachers are allowed to refuse, but say a teacher does know how to use a gun, why should they take on extra responsibility for no extra pay? Because that's what Buckley was arguing here.
Second, they don't even have enough money for fucking supplies. You're gonna arm them all? Or are teachers expected to bring their own guns from home? There's always some sob story about some teacher buying pencils and paper for their students because schools wouldn't provide them. I can just see it now. Hero teacher who shot rampaging kid had to take second job to buy own gun.
I mean, the government could learn how to budget their money better. Seriously, only 6% of the government's money goes towards education, and 54% goes to the military. I think the government could arm teachers if they shaved a bit of money off the military's budget and gave it to the education budget.
Congratulations, Dark! This debunks nothing! Just because the government could balance the budget better doesn't mean that they are. Buckley's claim that schools likely won't provide the teachers with guns still holds water because of how small the education budget currently is. Saying that the government could be managing the budget better doesn't debunk anything because that doesn't change our current situation. Now, if Trump said something about wanting to increase the education budget, then your point might have had some weight behind it because that would show that the government is taking steps to address that issue. But as far as I know, they aren't, and you don't provide any evidence for this, so your argument is just a what-if scenario at best.
Also, the government hasn't ever had a reputation for being smart with money. For example, they wasted about $1.5 million on drones that don't even fucking work.
Just because the government's always had a problem with spending money, that doesn't mean it isn't a problem. Nor does it debunk Buckley's claim that the government won't give the school a firearm budget due to how little money they give the educational facilities. Moving on.
Third, my fucking high school teachers had a strike because they wouldn't pay them extra to coach fucking volleyball or whatever. You think they're gonna spend extra time at a gun range for free to become good enough to take out a shooter?
Hey, Buckley, why are you using sources from Canada to make a point about the US education system? I mean, it's not like there weren't sources you could have used to show that US teachers are willing to go on strike, and you've shown that you're willing to look up sources in the US to make a point later, so what's the excuse here?
Oh, or, hey, maybe just put a gun range in the school. The cafeteria only gets used for like, what, an hour a day, right? Just stick a few targets into the fucking meatloaf.
And this would only be obviously for people that are very adept at handling a gun. And it's called concealed carry.
They would only be for people who are very adept at using a gun. Did you even listen to what Trump said? Or did you just hear armed teachers and leave it at that?
Did you hear what Trump said, Dark? Because his statement ends up debunking you here.
They go for special training. Special training.
Even if they knew how to use a gun, according to Trump, they would still have to take time out of their schedule for this special training, which fits into Buckley's point perfectly since he's saying that teachers likely wouldn't want to take on extra responsibility with no pay. The only one not listening to Trump's statement is you.
6. Congrats. The teachers just became target number 1. I guess it might save more kids from being shot, but these school shooters, as much as you just want to paint them as mentally ill, just some snapped, frothing lunatic because that makes you feel better, but they plan shit out. This Florida kid, fuck his name by the way, walked in, pulled the fire alarm, shot a bunch of people, waited until no one could see him, dropped the gun, pretended to be a fleeing student, and then went to Subway to get a fucking pop like he was Mr. Blonde. You don't think this person would have factored in, oh, adults might have guns? Well, I'm taking them out first.
Do you know what concealed means? No, seriously, do you? If teachers were to conceal carry, they would hide the gun from the students. Ergo, the shooter wouldn't know who has a gun and who doesn't.
Well, unless the shooter knows that the teacher might have a gun, then that's good enough reason to aim for them first, since there's a possibility that the teacher might have one, and no possibility that the students would. Did you listen to Buckley's earlier statement?
You don't think this person would have factored in, oh, adults might have guns? Well, I'm taking them out first.
Granted, the school shooter might be unaware of the state's gun laws, but as Buckley said, they can plan things out, so they could easily look up the gun laws to see if that's the case, especially with how much publicity Trump's statement is getting.
7th, I would not want to be the student of a teacher who's the first to jump up and volunteer for this position. Oh yeah, I'll take a gun. Yeah, give me a gun. Talk about fucking red flags.
Gun owners are violent. Great stereotype. Even then, Trump said he would do background checks, so no violent lunatics would get a gun.
So we'll be doing the background checks. We'll be doing a lot of different things, but we'll certainly be looking at ideas like that.
Doesn't change the fact that Buckley's point was that some students could be uncomfortable around the teacher due to the possibility that they might have a gun. Even with background checks, the student could still be unnerved to the fact that they have to spend over half an hour with someone who has a lethal weapon that they could use at any moment. Especially considering that background checks aren't foolproof. The culprit at the Texas church shooting, for example, was able to accidentally slip through the background check. So that doesn't guarantee the student's safety 100% and could therefore make the student feel unsafe.
And 10th, it's the fucking worst person to arm in the school. I mean, next to the students themselves, though I'm sure that's the next idea. Arm the hall monitors. They're just wandering around watching out for people who don't have a pass to go take a shit, right? Just give them a gun, too.
You want to give responsible teachers a weapon that they know how to use and that they can protect your children with? Pfft, what are you, fucking gay?
You know, I was originally going to get on Buckley's case for not explaining why he felt the teachers are the worst person to arm, but then I watched his original video and found this.
8th, I've seen teachers struggle with getting the fucking laptop to work with the projector, or when I was going to school, the VCR to work with the TV. Yeah, let's put them in charge of protecting the school.
I get this was a potshot, but if you're going to treat Buckley's claim that teachers aren't fit to bear arms like it's stupid, maybe you should poke fun at the points he actually made instead of ignoring them and cherry-picking other parts of the video to make his claim look baseless. That being said, Buckley, why did you essentially make the same point twice? Your 8th point already showed why you think teachers shouldn't be armed. Your 10th point doesn't add anything other than a joke which could have been said at the end of your 8th point. I'm going to be skipping Dark's point about how armed guards are more expensive than handguns, however, I'm going to be replaying the statement Buckley made before Dark's interjection because it provides some much needed context for my next point.
At least put fucking trained armed guards in the school then. Actual trained security whose job is to be security, who could tactically outmaneuver and take down a shooter. Not the gym teacher who wants to fulfill his lifelong dream of being a cowboy, or the math teacher who gets squeamish having to squash a bug. I mean, I don't think that kids should have to go to school in the same conditions that prisoners live their lives, surrounded by people with weapons.
Prisoners? What? How is that comparable? Prisoners are kept in tiny cells with heavily armed guards around them. How is that comparable to a few teachers concealed carrying guns? Also, wouldn't it be worse if there was guards at the school?
You're missing Buckley's point. Again, Buckley was talking about the armed guards here, not the teachers. He was saying that putting armed guards would make the students feel uncomfortable, but that's still a better solution than arming the teachers since they have more training. And since your definition of a prison is heavily armed guards patrolling people in small rooms, then that could apply to schools as well, given the size of classrooms these days. Also, if I can back up to Buckley real quick, I have a couple things to say about this point. For starters, you're kind of committing the conjunction fallacy here by saying, oh, 35% of teachers are men, therefore only men will be armed. And secondly, weren't you complaining earlier about how female teachers won't do as good a job as defending students as male police officers? Now, yes, you do differentiate their careers, however, you also specifically differentiate their genders, so if that wasn't a factor, then why on earth are you even mentioning this? Dark makes one more point, which I don't have a problem with, and goes into his final thoughts, so I might as well go into mine. This commentary was a mess. Buckley's video had issues, sure, he contradicted himself, his points got a bit repetitive, and he could have made a more convincing argument, but your commentary wasn't exactly a pile of roses. Most of your points either didn't debunk what Buckley was saying, or just missed his point entirely. I noticed that unlike your other videos, you didn't have anyone check your script, and it shows. That's not to say that every video must be script checked, but between that and the fact that this commentary only came out 4 days after your previous one, the video feels like it was rushed out the door. If you ever want to go without script checkers again, make sure you put a lot of effort into double checking your script. Write it up, come back to it a few days later, and rewrite any statements you find questionable. It will really help in the long run.